Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Show. Coming up today, making an entrance, SPFL new boys Bonnyrigg Rose are flying high. We are joined by their manager Robbie Horn. Is this Partick Thistle season? The Jags are pushing for a return to the top flight. And pick it out Landro. It's been 15 years since James McFadden collected the ball 35 yards out in the Parc des Princes and thought, why not? Yes, hello, I'm your host again this week, Grant Russell, and joining me on the show today is West Ham United's Laura Brannan.
Hello.
Hello, and with Finn busy on his travels back to Scotland this week, we have Partick Thistle Women's Head of Media, the award-winning Craig Walker, standing in. Hello.
Hello.
That's permanently on the CV now. So there's been no football this weekend because of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, but has anything been catching your eye over the last few days, Laura?
Yes, there's obviously not been much happening this weekend in terms of football, for obvious reasons. Look, if you want to mourn, you're well within your right, and we all respect that. There's absolutely no disrespect here to the royal family, to those affected by the Queen's passing. But it feels like this blanket ban on football feels very excessive and unnecessary. When you've got the likes of pubs and cinemas staying open, when you've got rugby matches still going on, how is it disrespectful to have a football match going on at the same time? What I found interesting as a result of that was this decision to cancel the games. It wasn't as a result of this London Bridge has fallen operation, and it wasn't even a decision from the government. It was the government's left it up to the league bodies themselves to make the decision. The English Premier League, or the English leagues in general, they all went for it, cancelled their games, and as a result, it felt very much like what Scottish football can always does. It follows suit. Going by the replies, like when you look at Twitter and when you saw the clubs posting saying their games were off at the weekend, there wasn't an appetite for this. There was general kind of like outrage almost, fans that were really annoyed that they'd spent money, they'd made plans to go to the games, and it was called off. It just feels a bit to me like it would have been nice for the SPFL to kind of have an independent thought here and think of the fans in this case. I just felt as though it was a wee bit unnecessary what happened.
But the Scottish Football Show rumbles on. Craig, what have you spotted? Anything been going on in the wider world of Scottish football?
Yeah, I want to talk about Jags for Good. So Jags for Good are a group of Partick Thistle supporters who've been doing good things for quite a while now. They raised money to get a load of season tickets for those less fortunate that couldn't afford them. The club matched that as well. So there's been a lot of season tickets handed out to the local community. They've been doing food bank donations, raised money as well, and earlier this week they launched a scheme to buy energy top-ups, obviously with the cost of living crisis at the moment and energy prices going through the roof. They've been raising money to help those less fortunate in our local community buy energy top-ups for the winter ahead, and so far in the week they've raised almost £6,000, which I think is a terrific achievement for them, and the Thistle supporters who've been donating. Both the men's and women's Thistle teams have donated to players off their own back.
Yeah, outstanding work from Jags for Good. And look, one from me on a similar vein is the announcement towards the end of last week that the Scottish FA and the SPFL have told clubs that they can schedule kick-off times earlier once the winter months come in, particularly for the Scottish Cup, to try and alleviate any costs that clubs will incur especially from floodlights. But the SPFL have also said that they are open to listening to league games being moved. So yeah, a bit of a bizarre topic to be talking about, not one you'd expect to be potentially looking at Premiership clubs having to look at kicking off at 12:30, but that is where we are in the world, unfortunately, and it is good the SFA and SPFL have been proactive.
If we had a bad night last night, you're having enough. Horrendous one to now.
SPFL new boys Bonnyrigg Rose won promotion to League 2 in the summer after winning last season's Lowland League and then eventually beating Cowdenbeath in the playoffs. They now sit second in the League 2 table with 3 wins and a draw from their opening 6 games, and if the games go ahead this coming weekend, they'll be shaping up for a top of the table clash away to Dumbarton. Well, joining us now is Bonnyrigg Rose manager Robbie Horn. Robbie, thank you very much for joining us. How's life in the SPFL and in League 2?
It's been a decent enough start. Obviously, the first few games we got off the flyer, and it's been a little bit more difficult since then. I think a bit of reality's kind of kicked in on what we're actually facing, and there's been a few challenges for us as a club as well. Just different things, just being a bit more professional, I think. But no, it's been great. I've enjoyed it so far. New tests as well. I'm going to, not so many new places for me as obviously I was a player, and but for the supporters especially and the chairman and committee, it's been a lot of new places for them to visit. So it's been good, and we've had a really warm welcome from everybody. So it's been great.
What have you made of the standard of the football in League 2 so far, and how have the squad coped with the jump up from the league below?
Yeah, obviously that we were on a crest of a wave that first kind of couple of games, so we got off the flyer, as I said, and yeah, definitely standard is a little bit higher. I would say it's not massively higher because you've got teams obviously playing against the likes of Rangers and Celtic and the Celtic B teams in the Lowland League, and you've got likes of East Kilbride and Spartans are all tough games as well. So but I think for me, you have to be even more consistent. You could have a few more off days in the Lowland League, with no disrespect to some of the teams you played against, but you could get away with having a few off days and still maybe getting a result. But it feels like in League 2 that if you do have an off day, you're going to get turned over. And we found that out, obviously against Albion Rovers at home and then up at Elgin away as well. I thought we probably both games didn't perform at the levels that we could, and we got turned over. But it's all a bit of a learning curve for us, and the expectation levels of everybody is pretty high, I think, just because obviously they've seen what other teams have done when they've been promoted, the likes of Celtic and Cove, Edinburgh City as well. People have seen what they've achieved, but we're a different kind of animal, to be honest. We're very much reliant on the backing of the football club. Obviously success breeds that, and the back in the football club, meaning by the supporters and the community. So we're very reliant on that. And to be fair, we've been back brilliantly so far. I mean, over 500 season ticket holders, just incredible for a team at our level. And the first 3 home games we've had over 1,000 people at it as well. So we've had superb backing. But it's just trying to manage people's expectations. And I think we've kind of been spoiled at Bonnyrigg for a number of years now, where you're winning most weeks, whether it be as East of Scotland or Lowland League. We've been winning most weeks, and it's kind of dealing with those defeats as well at the same time, and how you respond to that. So it's definitely a big challenge in front of us. But we look forward to all the games we're playing and the people we're facing, and playing against some really good quality players, and you're playing against the management teams as well that have played football at a higher level themselves. So it's a great challenge for us.
Well, obviously the pyramid was brought in for a reason. It was to allow clubs like Bonnyrigg Rose to rise up into the professional ranks. And do you think we're starting to find out the truth a bit now, Robbie? It's getting to the stage where we have Highland and Lowland League teams that are, it's been there the whole time. There are clubs that are stronger or bigger, potentially bigger, or have more potential than those that were, just carefully complacent in the leagues. And we're starting to see the balance starting to, we're starting to get that balance now, aren't we, of teams getting their rightful place, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. For me, the biggest thing is it should be happening quicker, to be honest. And all these teams that left the juniors and came over to the East of Scotland, the West of Scotland leagues with the hope of reaching the Lowland League and promoting from there. And there's some massive clubs. I mean, you're looking through these West of Scotland teams, through Auchinleck, Darvel, Pollock, Kilwinning. They're all huge clubs, and they've come over and tried to join the Premier because they want to progress as well. But we're at a bottleneck. I think that's the biggest problem, and I think something has to be done about it. That's the only way you're going to solve the problem. And there has to be, well, even if it was increasing the numbers of teams within League Two and making it that so more teams would get promoted from within the east of Scotland and the west of Scotland into Lowland, and then in turn from the Lowland and the Highland up to the main league. So that's the way I would like it to happen, but I can't see it changing, to be perfectly honest. That's just for so long now.
You've been talking about managing the expectations, but do you want your players to dream big, to dream that they can achieve what Kelty and Cove have achieved and move even further up the SPFL?
Yeah, I think for our point of view, as a club, we've got to grow the right way. There's no sugar daddy there that's chucking money into it or anything like that. So we've got to grow over a period of time, and it is getting supporters, continue to be successful on the football pitch, and then you're getting the same amount of backing from the supporters. If you're getting that many season ticket holders and you're still getting another 400 or 500 people on top of that at the gates as well, that's massive revenue for the football club. So that's the way we've got to work. But from the start of the season, the expectations for us and for me was that the boys will, playoffs. Let's hit playoffs. And I think probably the majority of the teams within the league will probably be saying the same sort of thing, that playoffs. And then if you've got yourself in the position whereby you think you can maybe go and challenge and maybe go and win the league, then fair enough. But there's no point in us going into the league and just saying, oh yeah, we're just here to survive, because if you set your expectations as low as that, then I think you're asking for trouble. So we've got to set the bar high and say, look, we're aiming for the playoffs here, and just see where it takes us. We've obviously had a decent enough start. I still don't think, bar maybe the first game of the season against Forfar and a spell against Stirling Albion as well, I still think we've not reached the levels we can actually get to. I think we've still got a lot to come, and a lot of that comes from we've had a few injuries, we've had people missing for different reasons. Again, that's the side of things I'm talking about the club being a bit more professional, the players being a bit more professional. You maybe get away with boys going away on holidays and stuff like that during the season when you're in the low and the east of Scotland, but when you're in League Two, everyone's got to be a wee bit more professional, and these are things we're having to adjust to. But I hope, as the season goes on, we'll start to find our feet a wee bit more on that side of things. But I think we're a good side, and I think we can compete with anybody in their day. I think it's a really, really tight league as well. I think there's not one team where you look at it and think, oh, they're miles better than everybody else. Dumbarton had a great start, but yeah, I think everybody will beat each other over the course of the season, I think.
I love that positivity. I absolutely love it. Look, Robbie, you managed the club a few years back as well, so this is your second spell there. How have you seen the club grown since then? Since moving up to the Lowland League, since obviously moving up to League Two, have you seen it reflected around the town as well, just that kind of growth of supporters?
No, absolutely. The community club has grown as well over that period of time and success, and it's brilliant to see them coming along to our games and seeing the kids, coming to watch the games, and they're actually, instead of going to Tynecastle or Easter Road on the Saturday, they're coming to New Dundas Park, which is brilliant, and their favourite players are Mr. Nagaki, who's the local high school teacher as well, so which is great, and and the players have been very receptive to that as well, and being involved with the community, and they're all very approachable to the community as well. So it's been a great journey that we've had over the last few years, especially east of Scotland and Lowland, and now into League Two. So it's great, and just hopefully it can continue from there.
I know you said, Robbie, that every team will probably beat every team this season, and maybe your team haven't quite hit the level completely that you know they can, but look, it's Dumbarton next. If all goes ahead, big club. What sort of challenge will that be?
Nah, Stevie Farrell's obviously managed in the leagues for a period of time. He's obviously been at Stranraer, and he was at Airdrie before that as well. And I actually faced him when I was manager in a short spell at Berwick, and he was manager at Airdrie at that point in time as well. So they've started the season great. They've got some really experienced players throughout their team when you look at it as well, guys that have played lower leagues for a period of time, even looking at the guys that are playing up front, the likes of Declan Byrne and Ali Love have always kicked about in the lower leagues, and then you look at the back, the likes of Carswell and Buchanan as well. So it's a really tough test going through there, but we've actually had a decent record at the Rock. The seasons we've played, obviously we beat Dumbarton in the Scottish Cup replay when we went on to face him, so we won that night. And then there's another thing, last season we played Rangers at the Rock as well, Rangers B, and we beat them. So the Rock's been a fairly kind place, this, and hopefully, if the game's on Saturday, we'll be pretty kind to us on Saturday again.
You think I'm going to answer a stupid question like that?
Now, going into the season, most were tipping Dundee or Inverness to win promotion to the Premiership. But let's face it, the Championship is never predictable. So step forward, Ayr United and Partick Thistle, who currently sit above those sides at the top of the table. Now, we looked at Ayr a couple of weeks ago and we spoke to their general manager, Graham Matthew. But Laura, Thistle are also proving a tough nut to crack as well, aren't they?
Yeah, this is it's going well for Thistle so far this season. If you just look at the stats, I mean, the table alone says good things for them. They've won 4 of their 6 games so far, drawn 1 and lost 1. They've scored 14 goals so far, which is the most in the Championship out of all the clubs. And a great League Cup run as well so far as well. Obviously got out of the group stages, beat Arbroath in the first knockout round, and have now been scheduled against Aberdeen for the quarter-finals tie. So, I mean, second in the league, still in the League Cup. It feels like it's all going really well for them just now.
It's not an easy life being a Thistle fan, is it, Craig? You help out with the club's media output, so you're closer to the action than most. Why would you say it's clicking so well this season?
Yeah, as you said, it's not easy being a Thistle fan, but at the moment it's very enjoyable. I think just it's been a slow and steady improvement as the seasons have went on since Ian McCall's come in. Obviously, we were in the Premier League, fell out of it. Gary Caldwell came in, took over from Alan Archibald, and things didn't really go to plan under him as manager. But Ian McCall's come back in to what he calls his club, and he's been building since then. Obviously, we had the relegation, but since winning League One, it's been a build up. Last season, we got into the playoffs. Probably didn't quite have enough to see us go up, but we've certainly started this season very well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Thistle out of the top league since 2018 when they lost that playoff final over 2 legs to Livingston, and then, I like how you say relegated. What a diplomatic word. Relegated is normally associated with sporting context. But anyway, I digress. Moved into League One when COVID hit. Just when you have those back-to-back shifts down the league pyramid, just how dark a time was it at Firhill, considering God, it wasn't too long ago I can remember the scenes of celebrating the top 6 finish.
Yeah, we finished top 6, and it was the season after we ended up being relegated in the playoffs, so it was a quick turnaround from those highs to the lows of being relegated to the Championship. We managed to stay up 1 the year after that in the Championship, and then down to League One in that COVID hit season. As you said, we were in that position, but we're well within our capability of getting out of it, and we had kind of no choice to go down to League One. But I think you look at League One now, the teams that are in it, look at Falkirk, they were in it before we got in there, and they're still there and struggling again this season. So it just shows you how important it really was to win that league first time asking, and at points it didn't look like it was going to happen, but it shows how really, really important it was to get that league victory and move up to the Championship and go from strength to strength from there.
It just feels like it's been really unfair on Thistle recently, and I guess for context, for those that don't really realise, it's Thistle were obviously the ones that were bottom of the Championship when COVID hit, and the league was ended. So it was like by default, you guys were relegated into the division below. I mean, that was obviously very unfair at the time. Everyone kind of kicked up about Hearts and Stranraer and stuff like that. It all happened to them as well. It feels like, I don't know, maybe I'm misconstruing this because I'm from the outside, and you're obviously inside all this, Craig, but it looks like Thistle have just gone around their business quite quietly since then. But at the same time, I still feel like, am I right in saying there's still a wee bit of hurt there? And it would kind of, if you guys were to get promoted this season, it would be an even bigger sense of achievement.
Yeah, I think you're right. In the season we won League One, I know for a fact that a lot of the players used that hurt of being demoted, maybe is the correct word, to the league below, as a kind of driving force to win that league. I know a lot of them were hurt, and a lot of them had to take wage cuts, and it's not as if they're all earning big bucks. They've all got families to feed, and especially during COVID times and different things, it was all very tough for them as well. But I think a lot of them used it as that kind of just inside that kind of driving force to get them up the league, and a lot of them are still here. We've got a lot of the same players. Ian McCall's there's not been a big squad turnaround. Ian McCall's just quietly building the squad. A few players leave, he brings in some improvements, and the squad's just gradually increasing as the seasons have went on. And I think we've got a good chance this season of hopefully getting to the Premier League again.
What is that squad like? Because I remember you saying to me before, it's like such a settled side now, isn't it?
Yeah, you've obviously got the core who've been there for a couple of years now. You've got Ross Docherty, the captain in midfield, Brian Graham up front. Stuart Bannigan's now about to enter his testimonial year. So you've got a lot of players that are there, have been there quite a while now. And Ian McCall's brought in a lot of younger players this season, like Harry Millen, left back, absolute tremendous talent. How he's not playing in the Premier League, I've no idea. He could easily be playing at a higher level, so quite the coup to get him in. But the squad this year feels a lot more balanced than possibly last year. Last year, you were once Zach Rudden left for Dundee, you were relying on Brian Graham for all the goals, and he was carrying a bit of an injury, and if he's not scoring, then we struggled to kind of score. Scott Tiffany was the main creator. When he was injured, we struggled to create. But this year you've got a lot more options. The squad feels a lot more balanced. Last year you had Tiffany on the left, but teams just doubled up on him. We didn't have anyone on the right. We brought in Jake Hasty to try and do that. He didn't really do much. Brought in Kyle McAllister after that. He was injured. He didn't do much. So we didn't have anyone on that right hand side that they had to watch for. Whereas this season we brought in Stevie Lawless, who's been a tremendous sign. Obviously he was there last time we won this league, so he knows how to do it. Brought in Aaron Muirhead again, he was there last time we won this league, so we brought in experience, brought in youngsters, and the squad just feels a lot more balanced. We've got obviously Brian Graham still your main striker, but Anton Dowd scored against Arbroath last week. You've got Danny Millen as well, who's brought in, so you've got options there even off the bench, and if someone's injured or someone's not doing it, then you've got a lot more options this year than we have in many years.
Picture the scene then, Craig. So it's August 2023, we're at Firhill, opening day of the season, in the Premiership, ready to unfurl the Championship flag. Is Neil Doncaster welcome? Is he at that party in your mind?
Well, it was quite fun last. He was obviously it was when we unfurled League One flag. Just 2 years ago, he was on the pitch, and the reception was interesting to say the least.
Let's leave it at that.
Yes.
Football, bloody hell.
Well, no games the weekend past, of course, but some European action definitely to look forward to in midweek. All starts with Shakhtar Donetsk against Celtic on Wednesday evening now in Warsaw, because Rangers, who were due to play on Tuesday, have now been put back to Wednesday 8 o'clock, and in Hearts are on Thursday 8 o'clock in Riga in the Conference League. But Laura, talk through what's happened with Rangers' Napoli game and what went wrong over in Amsterdam the week before.
Yeah, so just to fill you in what's happened in the latest newsline here, Rangers were due to host Napoli on Tuesday night. That has been changed because of the order of procession from how the Queen's body essentially is getting moved from Scotland down to England, and the amount of police that are...
Sorry, I just never thought we'd be doing a podcast and the reason a game's been postponed is because they're moving a body. But we are where we are in the world. Yeah,
I mean, I tried to say it in the nicest possible way, but it's just sort of fact, wasn't it? The game was originally scheduled for Tuesday. It's now been moved to the Wednesday, and the reason for that is because of police presence. I think it's basically all the police are getting roped into doing this procession and coming down to London for all of this. So they're short-staffed essentially, and they've wanted to obviously the game has to go ahead because the schedule with the European games in comparison to the World Cup, there really is no wriggle room here. They have to play this game. There was talk of switching the fixture around, but they've went ahead with it. Rangers are at home. What has changed though is no Napoli fans can travel to the game, and the reason obviously for that is because they don't have as many police officers to work the game, so they don't want to have to deploy as many on the away end. It just makes it an overall easier task to manage. But on the flip side, as a result of no away fans on Wednesday, it means that Rangers fans have been told they're not allowed to travel to Naples for the return fixture at the end of October. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but to me, I think that's an absolute shambles. There's fans that have spent hard-earned money to go to an away fixture, which is going to be a tasty away fixture, let's face it. I mean, a game against Napoli was never going to be a quiet affair. And to do it in the Champions League, that would have been a really class trip. And to have that taken away, I don't really think it's fair in any sense. It feels like we're going back to COVID times here, just being, oh no, no fans allowed. Yeah,
I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Oh, Kat wants to say something about that. Sorry. Yeah, look, it's a difficult situation, especially when you're making quick decisions under a lot of time pressure. And I know Dublin was also mentioned as a potential venue, which would have been by far and above the worst possible situation. You have Rangers fans who lose out from the game being moved to Tuesday to Wednesday, but Rangers have said they'll refund. And look, when it comes to away fans, I assume that this is an agreement between Napoli and Rangers, and it's far from ideal. Maybe the discussion will come up again once this game's out of the way and potentially taking fans over to Italy. But I know I do have sympathy. It's a rubbish situation, but when you're in the middle of it all and you've got to make quick decisions, it's not the worst compromise in the world. At least the game is going ahead.
No, I think it's a terrible compromise.
Shock.
No, I just think it's completely unacceptable. Football without fans is nothing, and to have no away fans, like, as much as, okay, you can argue, they wouldn't have much of an impact. It's just a small corner of the ground. It's just not fair. And even just as a human element, it's not fair on fans who have spent money on travelling. They're not going to get their flights refunded. Especially when you go to a hotel in Italy and say, I can't fulfil this because the Queen died. They're going to go, well, that's nothing to do with us. It's not our problem. I just think it's fair. No, you're right. I get that. You're absolutely spot on. It's a catch-22. Football authorities try to do and clubs try to do the best they can, but there's collateral damage, and it's rubbish. And I hope that everyone who's spent money is able to get it back. But there's another game on Wednesday night, and not without its own quirk as well. Celtic heading off to Warsaw to take on Shakhtar Donetsk. It's a real interesting one. If we look at Celtic against Real Madrid, that first 45 minutes was just, I was sitting trying to comprehend. I just couldn't see anything but a Celtic win at that point, but it was just the chances they weren't taking. Callum McGregor hitting the post, even the start of the second half as well. Maeda kind of fluffing his lines right in front of goal, and just absolutely blew them away. It was an incredible performance. It was starting to put itself, at the levels of it could have been one of the greatest Scottish football performances in Europe of all time. And I don't know what the approach was necessarily second half. If it was come out, try and preserve energy a little bit, and then try and hit them again. And I don't know if the confidence went as well when Celtic were still pressing so high, and it's just that little movement at the first goal where Real Madrid pop 5 or 6 passes together, beat the press, break the line, and suddenly they're in behind, and it felt like game over almost immediately at that point. But on Shakhtar, look, a team who got off to an absolute flyer in this competition and had a great start to the league season as well, and look, are well accustomed to not playing in Donetsk for starters, and so being nomadic is necessarily no problem to them. Obviously it's their first Champions League group stage match, playing in Warsaw, but look, the result against Leipzig last week, and look, Leipzig are absolute try to find a non-offensive word at the moment, although did absolutely hammer Dortmund at the weekend in Marco Rotz's first game, so that's another one to look out for further down the line. But yeah, I don't know how to call this game. I really don't know how to call it. Celtic aren't amazing shakes on the road.
Shakhtar have started the season really well. You've got that little niggling Marian Shved elephant in the room of a former player who didn't hit the heights at all, coming up against his former club. He's 3 goals in his last 2 games, including 2 against Leipzig. I just can't. We could honestly go from the sublime against Real Madrid, those first 45 minutes, to just one of those horrible away performances that we've seen over the years. Really, really tough one to call. And of course, on Thursday then, Hearts over in Latvia to take on RFS. Look, it wasn't a great start at all, was it, Craig? Against Bahasahir. Absolutely blown away last Thursday night, and look, it's a really tricky one again heading over to Latvia on a Thursday night.
Yeah, as you said, absolutely blown away last Thursday. Defeated 4-0, and Hearts are on a run of form just now that Robbie Nielsen won't be happy with at all. They've not scored in 5 of their last 6 games, lost to Kilmarnock in the Cup, lost to Livingston in the league, and they're starting to really miss, I think, Liam Boyce. I think he's an absolute massive miss for them. I spoke earlier on when we were talking about Thistle, about Zach Rudden leaving and how much we missed him, and sometimes you just need that other striker to make, obviously, Lawrence Shanklin play well. So defeated 4-0, and it's a game they probably at the start of it looked, just in Latvia this coming Thursday, game they looked at and possibly thought they could go there and win, but suddenly the pressure's on. They're on a horrible run of form, and another heavy defeat, and it could be pressure on Robbie Nielsen.
Yeah, and RFS, of course, going over to Florence last week and drawing 1-1 as well, and suddenly you're looking at that going, oh bloody hell, what are we in for here? Yeah, real interesting week of fixtures for the Scottish teams in Europe again.
McFadden drags it down now, long way out. Oh, what a goal! What a goal! What a goal by McFadden! Magic from James McFadden! He's a genius again for Scotland! They've been suckered in the Parc des Princes! James McFadden from 40 yards into the roof of the net! Pick it out, Landrew! France 0, Scotland 1!
Yes, the 12th of September 2007. What a night that was. And it might not feel like it, but it's been 15 whole years since James McFadden's wonder strike sank World Cup finalists France on their own patch. On hindsight, of course, it didn't mean anything, because we fell just short of second place in the Euro 2008 qualifiers, but it's something we've kept in our hearts ever since, and it certainly didn't take away from how big an achievement it was on the night. And I'm glad to say we're joined now by the second most legendary man that night, after James McFadden, was the man behind the commentary, which has followed it forever, Peter Martin. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. People, when I think of James McFadden's goal, I think firstly the goal, secondly that commentary, and I'm not alone in that. So how does it feel that it was kind of etched into history like that?
Well, it's nice of you to say so. I feel old because it's 15 years, but nevertheless it was a commentary that I feel very proud of. The other thing about it, which was funny, I interviewed Faddy right after the game, and I said to him, did you enjoy that goal? And he says, I've spoken to my family at home, probably not as much as you enjoyed it.
Love it. What are your memories from that night? Can you actually remember delivering the line, or is it one of these ones that you have to watch or listen to the recordings back to remember it?
Well, you'll know better than anybody, and Laura as well, in the job you work in. You've always got to prepare, and I was meticulous because luckily enough, many years before it, I'd ran into John Motson, and he gave me a list of how he prepared, and each player and each game, and you know, the history behind the two teams that were playing. So I'd always done the preparation. So ahead of the game, I was totally and utterly clued up on what was at stake, every player that was playing for France and for Scotland. And the other aspect of it was, the thing that was sticking in my head was, I think Raymond Domenech was very dismissive of Scotland, but the one thing that sticks in my head is right at the end, after we'd mugged them at Hampden by 1-0, when Gary Caldwell scored, the interview after was with Thierry Henry, who looked into the camera, and he just looked straight into the camera and he said, "We'll see you in Paris." And he said that, I thought rather ominously, like everybody else, we are going to get absolutely hammered, because a couple of years before it, they'd won the World Cup. They were phenomenal. They had Makelele, Thierry Henry. They were just rippling with superstars. And I thought, we are going to get absolutely battered. And I can remember myself and Mark Guidi and Andy Walker heading out there, and we thought to ourselves, well, I wonder if it's going to be busy with the Tartan Army. And as you know, Grant, they must have bought every French ticket from every area. The place was bouncing with Scotland fans. And then, of course, as you're about to talk about, my God, 90 minutes like I've never witnessed before in my life.
I mean, like, out of the three of us here, we've all done commentary in some aspect of our careers up to date. Some have enjoyed it more than others. I absolutely hate doing it. But those who have never tried it themselves, what is it like in that moment? You've got the headset on, you've got to say exactly what you're seeing. How do you keep your emotions in check? Like, do you just go full pelt from the heart, or do you still think to yourself, no, I've got to get the facts in, got to get the stats in, got to be professional here?
Well, I think anybody will tell you that you've always got to be professional, but you've always got to, if you're in radio, you have to paint a picture that people can't see. So you've got to try and get so many different areas in that people will appreciate it. For example, a woman phoned in when I was working on radio, and she said, the reason why I like Peter Martin commentating is I know exactly where the ball is in the pitch. He paints that picture. So I was aware of the fact that people want to know what's going on in the pitch. The second part of it is you've got to get the excitement. The other part of it is, some of my mates phoned me up because they all went to school with me, and they were raging when I did the helicopters changing direction commentary, because they were all Celtic fans and I was doing this commentary for Rangers. Well, I wasn't doing it for Rangers. It was just something that Rangers absolutely loved at the end of winning a title on the last day of the season. And then other people like a Henrik Larsson commentary or a John Hartson commentary from Liverpool. But the great thing, Laura, is if you're commentating for Scotland, you can put in all your heart and soul into it. That's what makes it even more special. But remember, we're going into a game where we're hoping that we could basically top the group at this point. But we're playing a team that, they were odds-on favourite to absolutely, here's a Billy Connolly line, they were odds-on favourite to mollocate us.
Do you remember the lines? Do you remember the commentary?
I remember the commentary because I played five-a-sides a lot, that if you, at five-a-sides and 11-a-sides with your mates, if you ever scored a great goal, you used to shout to the guy who was in goal, pick it out, because it was meant as a great noise up. It was something that you could annoy your mates with if he'd scored a fantastic goal, wee bit of skill, bang, hits the back of the net. I used to shout, pick that out. And the funny thing was, it was in my head, it was such an outrageous goal that in the commentary I shout, pick it out, Landrow, France 0, Scotland 1. And it was almost an act of, it was Mel Gibson type, it's an act of defiance to shout to them, by the way, we'll see you in Paris, we've absolutely mugged you again, So that was what was going through my head with the pick it out, Landrow.
It was a GBX tune as well, wasn't it? And then you also went to New York to pick up an award for it as well.
Yeah, well, George and his wife, they're great for picking out songs that they thought they could put in a wee bit of commentary. So it was that type of thing we're going into it. And then at the end of it, when you finish your night, we would go for a drink and everybody was celebrating. But when you go home, the next thing that happened to me, which was crazy, and you touched on it, Laura, people are saying, by the way, are you aware of something? And I'm thinking, what is it? And he went, everybody's talking about your commentary. And I'm like, what? And they said the whole of the country has gone bananas for your commentary. They're downloading it. Soccer AM, Sky Sports. The next thing is, somebody said to us, we've put it in for the New York Radio Awards. And then from there, it just went crazy. You're winning awards here. And then the next minute they say to us, by the way, you've won a gold medal, equivalent of the radio Oscars, flying to New York. and you'll be presented with the gold medal for your commentary. And there I was on the top of this building looking out over New York, and they handed over the gold medal, and me and my wife are there with the gold medal, and then they played the commentary. Now, if you're playing my commentary to every nationality from across the world, these guys are all looking at me as if I'm a complete head case. But I said to them, believe me, when a nation of 5 million beats a nation of 55 million, you go crazy. And the best compliment I've ever had was a woman said to me, by the way, you know that you had a hand in helping me make my family. And I said, what? And she said, yeah. She says, your commentary that night, I got pregnant with our first kid.
Did they have it on loop during it, or what?
I just thought to myself, she's getting excited. I've got excited. It's taken everybody to another level.
Any idea what they called that kid?
Please tell me it was Faddy. Please say it was Faddy.
If it's James or Peter, I don't mind. Brilliant, even if it's a girl.
Craig, where were you that fateful night on the 12th of September 2007?
I was in the Scotland end.
Hey, what's your memories of that? Of when that goal went in? How many rows did you end up down?
I ended up with 3 rows in front, and the guy behind me poured his pint over my head. So that was my memories of it. Just everybody obviously going ballistic. The guy behind me spilled his pint all over me, ended up in my eye, and for the next 10 minutes I was trying to get beer out my eye to try and see what was going on again. So that was my memory of that goal.
Most people were covered in their eyes after that, and you were trying to restore your sight. That's a good story. Laura, where were you?
God, I'm so jealous that you were there. So, this was just before I started travelling with the Tartan Army. I, at this point, was desperate to go to an away game. I had no friends that wanted to travel, so I had no one to go with. And I went to the pub with my mum and dad. It's probably the best sort of experience I have of watching football in pubs is when it's so full you're sitting on the floor. And all I remember, and it sounds like something out of maybe a cartoon or something, but the whole table just went up in the air and all the pints went flying with it. I'll never forget that moment. And I guess that kind of did push me on even more to want to travel to games after that and kind of make the friends that I've since done and go all around the world. But Craig, were you in the march walking to the ground as well?
Yeah. So we spent the day underneath the Eiffel Tower, and everyone was saying there was going to be a march to the stadium. And I think even, obviously, you see the pictures now and it looks absolutely amazing. When you were in it, you didn't realise how big it was. You were obviously walking to the stadium, you knew it was really busy, but you had no idea how far it stretched forward or how far it stretched back. So you were just walking to the stadium and there was loads of people there and you thought, oh, this is quite good. And then you saw the photos of what you'd been involved in, just coming through, and obviously unbelievable. But it was a good day as well. Everyone was obviously underneath the Eiffel Tower and it was sunny and you had your drinks, and it was just a really good day kind of leading up to the game as well.
It's interesting because try and cast your mind back to that time, and obviously we'd had the Hampden game before it, but which was another momentous occasion in itself, and lives long in the memory. But Laura, I'll put it to you. I mean, just how big was it to beat France? Do you feel not just once but twice in that campaign, irrespective of what happened next?
Yeah, see when you look back on the Euro 2008 campaign, for someone of my age, I'm mid-30s, and before the Serbia game when we qualified for Euro 2020, that was the biggest thing that we had to kind of live off. I got into football watching the World Cup 98. I didn't see the qualifying campaign for that, so I never experienced the glory days of actually clinching qualification. So to come as close as we did that year, beating France twice, holding Italy, the world champions, for all it was worth, we came so close against them twice. Okay, maybe not as much the away game, but the home game, well, let's not talk about the home game. But it felt like that campaign was, in terms of atmosphere at Hampden and the atmosphere around the country, everyone was just loving following the national team at that time. It felt united. I remember in the build-up to the Italy game, I remember Clyde One broadcasting live from George Square, and walking down after uni in the pouring rain, but everyone was gathered, and this was 2 or 3 days before the actual game itself. it just felt like there was such a huge momentum in that entire campaign. To beat France, I think the France home game was the third game of the campaign, the third or fourth, and that was huge in itself. But we were also quite, not surprised, but we knew we could hold our own at home and pull off these big results. So as much as that was great, that was fun, that put us on a good kind of path to kind of the top end of the table, it was the away game that really made us feel like, wow, we can actually do this here. And I remember we came home, and I think it was at the Ukraine game was not long after that, when we were 2-0 up after inside 10 minutes. And it just felt like everyone was so convinced, this is our time, we're actually going to do this. And I feel as though it's still an injustice we didn't do it when we had boys like James McFadden, who never got to represent us at a tournament. It just feels so unfair when you look back for what he did for us and how he was a Scotland hero. Like you can criticise us for living off a victory, a couple of victories that in the end meant nothing. But I think for a Scotland fan, we were just grateful to have something big to kind of live off at that point and enjoy.
Yeah, and is Craig, I mean, off the back of that, and I certainly feel this, especially during those lean times. All right, not getting to the Euros, I remember in the Italy game in particular, was so crushing and such an anticlimax. But you know, nights like the one in Paris, nights like the one at Hampden as well, but obviously we're talking about Fadi's goal. Those are the types of things we dine out on, isn't it? I mean, here we are talking 15 years since Fadi goal. I mean, has anyone marked in their calendar 22 years since we qualified, or it would have been 23 years since we qualified for World Cup 98? That's not in anyone's calendar. So it's almost, this is kind of part and parcel of being a Scotland fan, isn't it? Like having these little landmarks that aren't qualifying for major tournaments that give us something to talk about forever.
Yeah, I think it's part and parcel of being a football fan. I think these big moments, the moments that you experience yourself with other people supporting your team, these are the moments that mean a lot, especially supporting Scotland. It's not as if these results come along every week and you just get used to it and so what? You've got to enjoy them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. And as Laura was saying, it was a qualifying campaign that united everybody. It was my first campaign of going regularly, so it's memories that me and my pals going to the games, and these results, that's the ones you remember, and you've got to enjoy them, you've got to celebrate them even all these years later.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking even at, like, for Scotland fans who don't have a lot to shout about, we do still enjoy big moments, and yeah, as I'm saying, you can joke about them and you can laugh at us for it, but even things like Lee Griffiths' free kicks against England, as much as what happened after that absolutely crushed us, and we're never going to be celebrating the draw and the 1 point we got from it, but those moments alone, that's what it comes down to, is those moments. That they were something that we'll never forget the feeling of it. Yeah, 15 years on, we're still talking about something because it's more than just a goal that hit the back of the net, isn't it?
Well, that's all from us. Thanks again for listening. Thank you to Laura and to Craig, and thanks to Robbie Horn, the Bonnyrigg Rose manager, and Peter Martin for regaling us of tales of that famous night in Paris 15 years ago. We'll be back next Tuesday. Hopefully the football will be too. Bye.